Okay, I'm in the circular economy and I'm looking at how can you drive changes within your business model, your current business model, to become more circular or to apply certain principles. One of the principles are the R principles, R strategies, or the R ladder. And let's have a look at how do they apply to your industry. So you've probably heard about the R strategies: refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle. And there are some more. But what do they really mean for your industry? And how can you apply them strategically to unlock value? When I work with executives, consultants, senior leaders across manufacturing, retail, finance, supply chain driven sectors, I often come across a common misunderstanding. The people treat or tend to treat the R strategy like almost like an eco checklist. Do we do that? Remanufacture? No, we don't do that. Can we maybe redesign? But that is not what our strategies are. So the R strategies are strategic levers. If you align them with your value proposition, you can lower the risk, you can reduce the costs, and potentially also open up new markets. And seriously transform your market, but also the brand perception. So let's have a look at, okay, before I go into the value proposition, let me start with the value proposition. I hope you can see what I'm going to draw. So if we have the business model canvas from Strategizer, so here we have the value proposition, here we have the key activities, the key resources, and the key partnerships. And let's focus for the time being solely on this piece, okay? So you've chosen a product that you want to have a look at how you're going, or how could the R ladder apply for one of your products. So let's briefly walk through them. Refuse, how can you eliminate the unnecessary from the start, meaning eliminate material, processes, or packaging, meaning make it leaner. But you can also think about how to reduce, design for efficiency, design for emotions, design by cyclability. There's kind of a shade on how you can reduce or use the redesign to have fewer inputs, smarter logistics, smarter or leaner supply chain. And it's quite interesting on how you can approach that. Reuse, it keeps the material and components in circulation, in the flow, in the loop, internally and or externally. Repair is about building systems that extend product life. And let's just think about when we introduce the planned obsolescence, that it is something which is embedded in our thinking because, I mean, it also, makes us like more new stuff than used stuff. And it forces people also to buy again some of the products. Think about the shavers. Um, think about many things that where it is applicable. Most of the household um, pieces are designed for obsolescence or planned obsolescence. So let's continue. So, how can we then repair potentially? How can we extend the product life through repair by building systems that allow that? How can we refurbish? Restore used goods to working condition either for reuse or for resale, or to extend the product's life. Then we have remanufacture. It is basically an upcycling to create like new products, or recycle. And we are stepping away from that because recycling is often seen as the first choice. So we do have some others. I spoke about redesign, rethink, whatever comes to re-engineer. You could find many ways on how to define how you can prolong the life of the product, how you can slow down its obsolescence. It is also how you can keep it in a closed loop. And there are many ways of how to look at it. So, but how can you make it happen? So what is important is that you define, I usually say between 3 and 4 key partnerships for a given value proposition, that you look also for the 3 or 4 key activities that needed to be done to build your product with 3 to 4 key resources. And then you look at them. What I like to do is what I call the circularity wheel. I put the VP in it. And I basically say, okay, from the R principles or R strategies, I choose usually between 3 and 5, but it is not a given. It is just, for you to understand how it works. So I choose 3 or 4 of them, or 5, and I list them. Let's say it would be rethinking, it would be redesign, remanufacture, it could be reduce, and let's say it can be also repair. Please choose them accordingly to what is written here, what makes more sense. So there is some preliminary work to be done to have a better understanding which of the R's are a good lever or needle mover when wanting to achieve a change, a transformation towards circularity, meaning keep it longer, close in the closed loop, narrow, meaning less material, slow down, meaning take away, for instance, planned obsolescence, and regenerate, which we haven't spoken. And then underneath all of that, you do have the data which you need to see how you can influence these 4 factors, where you can find Rethink, for instance, is about narrow. Redesign would be also about narrow. Remanufacture would be about slow, close, especially close. Reduce would be about narrow, but also could be also about regenerate. And repair would be about slow down. So you see how it is interlinked. But this, you don't necessarily need it. Just know that in some of the studies, when it comes to circularity, it is used. Now, what I like to do is, once you have defined which one would be the needle movers to transform that here, it is, let's see, oops, can I change it? No, I don't want to erase all. Let me see if I, no. So let's not do that. So, so I put, for instance, if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you get the gist. Then I look at, okay, the number 1, what can I do, or what shall I do to make it, or help me to move my product following the R's or these overall strategies on how to put circularity in place. And you go through that, through all the elements. And what I like to do is basically use 3 stickers type of colors. The one is pinkish or red, what we stop doing. The other is what we can continue to do. And the blue is what we want to change. So let me say, for instance, if my value proposition would be a pair of jeans, and I know that I'm using 700 liters to produce a pair of jeans, that the aim is to approach it in such a way, the production in such a way, that I'm going only to use maybe, let's say, 100 liters. So it would be the reduction of water. Or if it is about sending or shipping the jeans over to Asia to be for the dyeing process, that we say, okay, can we keep the dyeing process, for instance, here in Europe or wherever they have been produced? And we could also ask, from the colors that we're using to dye, is it possible that we use some colors which have less toxins? So you see, you get the gist on how it can be done, and you go through for all. Here we had 12 items, and you go for all of them. And it might be that it looks like a little bit like, let me put this. This is what we're keeping. It might be that, oops, I'm sorry, took that there's something like here, which I'm saying, okay, I'm here, I'm having it here for maybe the items so much. Let's put it here back here, and I have here, I'm having again the green here, and I have green here, I'm having green here, and here, and let's say what we stop, for instance, the toxins in the dyeing process, that I'm going to redesign it. And let's say that this would be the partner number one, this would be the dyeing, would be the key activities, let's say the 7, this the 8, and etc. So you go through that. You go through the entire process of what you captured here. And once you have that, you go again with your business model, key activities, key resources, key partnerships, and the value proposition. And you stick what you have done here, you stick it over there. Meaning, for instance, 1 would come here, then you maybe leave the number 2 and you put it here, and etc. And you look at how it looks like. And once you have this, you know what you want to change, what you don't want to change because it's too complicated or because you don't feel ready for the time being. Once you have all your key activities, your key resources, and key partnerships, then you have a look at and you say, okay, how did the value proposition from here to here change? How does it change? Is it now the durable, resilient genes, as an example, versus the hype genes or the trendy genes? And you can then go from there and see how it is going to impact here and here and here and here. But that you only do afterwards, okay? So for the time being, you go from here and you see how you can impact here and what, as a consequence, how your new or adapted value proposition looks like. So I hope it was helpful. And just think about, for manufacturing, it would be Caterpillar or Renault, Reman engines and components. They are saving cost and raw material. They're keeping the control over the data, like, for instance, Rolls-Royce for the aviation engines, and can really help with the companies, airlines, to see what needs to change, etc. With, for instance, with the pilots, with the numbers. I mean, they have all the data. So they lease basically, or the product becomes a service. Retail and fashion is about refurbishing, repairing, reusing. It is really all about that. Consumer goods, it's about refusing or reducing, to see where you can cut packaging, how you can remove toxic materials we spoke about, or redesign the entire supply chain. And it is quite interesting that there's still some major industries who are not looking at the potential of the entirety of their process, when it could definitely benefit a lot, because they're still coming from a very comfort zone. But this is where there is a huge potential at the forefront, meaning here, and where you can really look at how you can influence. In the construction, how can you reuse? How you um, re-inject a material like concrete, like steel, like timber. Um, so there is a lot of potential. Tech and electronics, repair, refurbish, remanufacturing are becoming key. And B2B services, well, the R principles show up in operations, like reducing travel, reusing data frameworks, refurbishing hardware across client sites. So there are many possibilities. There's basically no limitation to becoming or being creative as long as you say you're looking at a closed loop. Circular is a closed loop. How can you create really a system that keeps everything in the flow, in the loop? How you can narrow it through our strategies? How can you slow down through the R strategies? And how can you regenerate? And think also about something that we will be talking later on. It is also about um, how can you turn your products as services. Think about Rolls-Royce with the aviation engines. I mean, but there are some large manufacturers that are stepping into that model because it just gives them a better, a better control over the material, potentially scarce material, about costs. And yeah, so keep in mind, you don't need 10, 12, 15. Stick with the 3 to 5 here, what I said here. Make sure that you don't overload, please, the key partnerships, the key activities, and the key resources, 3 to 4, because else you're going to lose the oversight. Because this is about getting an understanding. We are not in the operations where you do then a material flow analysis in detail. It is about what could be done, what is the potential, finding this potential. So ask yourself, which R is might already be part of your business, even unintentionally, and which R could give you a competitive edge over the next year or 2 years. And if you want to find out what would be the best strategies for your industry, drop me a comment or reach out to me. And you will see it is fun. And because we are working on that on a daily basis, we have so many examples, which shows, oh, yeah, you could do that from this industry, and etc. So it's a lot of fun. It's pretty intense, but there's a lot of discussion, and it brings also people together. Because you start about, it's like almost like if you would cook together. I'm not a cook myself, but I mean, it's like doing something, an activity together, and it basically acts as a glue, team glue, if I may say so. So enjoy it, have fun, and let me know. Thank you.